Would people be shocked to know that a guy like John MacArthur praised the so-called ministry of a man that I think is a communist? Now, you guys can decide for yourself. Watch this clip. Let's play this clip and have Jason Pratt comment on this. Watch this.
National government.
Well, I'm gonna back it up to right here. Hang on, guys. Right here. Here is a picture of John Perkins, and this is from the Gospel Coalition. The final call of John Perkins. And for those of you who don't know John Perkins is a civil rights activist from down in Mississippi. I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. And John Perkins has been known as a guy promoting social justice or redistribution of wealth for years. In fact, he openly brags about the 3 R's. One of the 3 R's is redistribution of wealth.
But when we come to the reality of the one that they really resist, and that's redistribution, because we think of it. And I think redistribution is. I will not change it. People have tried to get us to change it, because it sounds so communistic. It sounds so much like communism. It sounds so much like holding everything in common in life. And it sounds like then you're going to take all the money from the rich and give it to the poor. And so people, and I always say that that's not the first thing in redistribution.
Notice, John Perkins did not deny that redistribution was not his goal. He just states it is not the first thing in his list of 3 R's that consist of relocation, reconciliation, and redistribution.
Injustice then is depriving other people from open access to all of God's resources in society. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. So justice then is really an economic issue. It's how we utilize the world resources and how we process them and how we keep too much of it for ourselves and deprive the poor of that same access. That's what injustice is all about. So it's beyond charity, although we should be charitable. You understand that?
Perkins defines injustice as an economic issue that involves depriving the poor of open access to resources. How does one go about guaranteeing everyone gets a car loan, or a home loan, or a business loan, unless the government mandates such and virtually nationalizes banks and/or redistributes wealth through socialism? John Perkins declares to a group in Canada that American Christians are selfish because many Christian Americans oppose socialized medicine or a national government-mandated healthcare program that takes from one to give to another.
It's a sad situation. It's a sad situation. And it's difficult for them to help people because they're over-conservative. Okay? And they see y'all, every one of you Canadians, as liberals. Y'all would want to keep all of y'all's people well, go to a doctor. We don't like that. We Christian, we don't like that at all. Because if we give it all to those who don't have it, we won't have enough. And so it's better for us not to give it to them so we can make sure we got enough. That's America. And that is perpetuated by the best of the Christians in America.
Listen now as John Perkins describes communist Fidel Castro and communist Nelson Mandela as examples of revolutionary and successful men that made change within society by throwing their whole self into it.
Now, you gotta be a little radical. Our wealth and prosperity stops us from doing anything radically because it will rock somebody's boat, and we want to be accepted before people. And so that's the question today I'm having, is I can't find nobody is concerned enough, passionate enough to do anything about the problem they see in society. And taking some responsibility for them. And that's what leadership is. Leadership is taking personal responsibility for some big problem that you can't do alone. And you need some other people to help you do it. But taking responsibility for it. And that's the problem. We take a charitable approach. We take a little approach. And it's too little and you're too late for the problem. And so all change comes because people decide that this is almost worth dying for. And then things change. Today, people are too light, and they're coming to it with too little. They're not ready to put something into it enough, sufficiently, energy, or intelligence, or whatever it is. The reason people like Bill Gates and other people, I'm talking about successful people, revolutionaries in the world. I'm talking about Fidel Castro. I'm talking about Zhou Enlai. I'm talking about Mandela. I'm talking about anybody. I'm talking about Chuck Colson or anybody who making a change in society, throw the wholeness of themselves into it. And today we just got a little charitable approach to everything.
John Perkins has proclaimed this sort of social justice agenda in America and to Christians for decades. It is well known through the books, interviews, and speeches by John Perkins that he is a social justice warrior that is calling for the church to be involved in the redistribution of wealth. Yet, this has not stopped well-known evangelical pastor John MacArthur from declaring that God continues to bless the ministry of John Perkins.
When I was a seminary student, I came to know a man named John Perkins. God has continued to bless the ministry there. It's going on today. It's called Voice of Calvary. John took the name from my dad's radio program and used it there, and that ministry flourishes today.
In August of 2018, John MacArthur, in an article, described John Perkins as his good friend and as, quote, a well-known black evangelical leader, end quote. The fact that a pastor like John MacArthur calls a redistribution advocate, Castro-praising, social justice warrior an evangelical reveals just how much Marxianity has infiltrated evangelicalism. In fact, Perkins is a much sought-after conference and church speaker within mainstream evangelicalism, further revealing the serious state of Marxianity within American Christianity, and that the word evangelical really means nothing.
And, all right, Jason, you want to comment on that? So MacArthur endorses a book condemning all the things that he has propped up and promoted, including giving credibility to John Perkins, who up until recently was all over the place at these so-called Christian conferences. Now we wonder why the church in America isn't ready to address socialism/communism of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris and Walz, because men like, I believe, John MacArthur have praised guys like John Perkins, who then got credibility through such men praising him to be an acceptable conference speaker. And now the church has been completely neutered for what could be our greatest hour. Your comment, please, Jason?
Yeah, Thomas Littleton nailed it on the outset, right? These men created the problem, and now they're endorsing a book that supposedly attempts to address the problem. But again, I do agree with what Perkins said earlier. It's too little, too late. But I find it ironic, too, that MacArthur would criticize Christians getting involved politically, not realizing that, twisting one, Romans 13, but two, not understanding the nature of our government for the people, by the people, of the people, and under the subjection of the people, of the governed. So he misunderstands our form of government and misapplies the scripture. But at the same time, then he never really addresses then individuals who are clearly communistic, socialistic, and Marxist, and doesn't decry their political involvement, only those with conservative views and attempts to influence our government. So I find that somewhat ironic. Additionally, I think it's worth pointing out that MacArthur claimed that he was with Perkins, I believe, when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, and they went to the hotel there in Memphis, and that trying to give himself some props. I think Perkins denies that MacArthur was with him that day, but nonetheless,
he himself said he was not in the office of Medgar Evers, as MacArthur claims, the night King was shot. He was actually coming home from teaching at a public school when a lady with her little daughter came up and said King had been killed. And Medgar Evers, or Charles Evers, the brother of Medgar Evers, the first civil rights martyr, who he said he was with, also was on audio saying, no, I was not in my office the night King was killed with this MacArthur guy. or John Perkins. I was in my car on my way to Natchez, Mississippi. So you're bringing up something very interesting, claiming he was in a room with a bunch of civil rights leaders and like King was killed. And the two leaders he named say that's not where we were.